Yeah.
But what Zeneva is saying is there's a lot of fishes in the sea. So to my understanding is like you trying to say your 18-year-old should have messed around at the time you were in a
I think she's
relationship.
saying
To my understanding.
No, she's just saying that.
Let's walk cleverly on the beat.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the African Millennials.
Yeah.
Are you guys excited?
Yes.
All right, so Gerard, why don't you read our question today?
All right, let's see what we got. Okay. Dear AMs, what would you tell your 18-year-old self? That's a loaded question right there. So how about we just take it from Cementina? You know, I think we all have points that we've written down, and lead us out.
Yes, I would tell my 18-year-old self to not be the product of my environment. I wasn't born here, and I was born in Haiti. I grew up there up until I was 12, and then I moved to America. But then my mom came before my dad, so she had to be a single mom. And basically, I spent a lot of time by myself. And when I was done with high school, I moved to New York to pursue my dream as an actress. But it was extremely hard for me to grow up and be an adult because my mom didn't really have the time to teach me there's a really rough world out there. You have to be careful. So I think that I got into many situations where I did not know how to handle them. And I remember when I was in college, I had this job. I got fired from it, and I was just like, it felt like my world was turning upside down. And I decided to go to my school therapist, and that opened my eyes about a lot of things. And basically, it opened my eyes to see the world in a different light because I just felt like the world was against me because I was working extremely hard. I was putting this job before my schoolwork, and it was even affecting my grades. And once I got fired, I was just like, wait, I'm doing my job. I got fired from doing my job. And that happens all the time. So it was just kind of like, I just felt like, okay, right, but I was just kind of like, okay, I'm working I thought you're supposed to work hard to be successful.
Right.
Here I am, I'm working hard on this job, and I still got fired over something super stupid. So, but once I started seeing a therapist, and I was just speaking about my personal life and how I was growing up and the things that I went through, it basically showed me how, basically, like I was saying before, life is a circle. I think the transition for me moving from Haiti to America was very challenging because there was a language barrier there, and also the way Haiti is portrayed on television was always negative, and I was bullied a lot because of that. So it was a lot. And also when we first came here, I had to live with my aunts, so I wasn't able to even live with my mom because obviously she couldn't afford it. I think all immigrants have gone through that, living with family members, and I've had several bad situations. I remember one of my cousin, she threw away some shoes. My sister picked it up to wear. She took it back from her and threw it back in the garbage because she just didn't want my sister to have it. And it was like some beat up Timberlands. And it's just like all these things that we go through when we come here as an immigrant. People look down on you at home, even your own family, and even at school. So it was extremely challenging for me. And yeah, I don't really wish it up on anybody.
Yeah, Cementina, I can definitely see where you're coming from. Like sometimes life, like you feel like life has you in a warp sometimes, and you know you're trying to get out, and you're trying to pursue your dreams, but you're constantly, 10 steps forward, 12 steps back. So I get you. But what you feel about that, Zenobia?
Let me see what I have on my list. So the first thing I would tell my 18-year-old self is there is plenty fish in the sea. I think that. Why
That's
y'all
real.
always laughing
That's
at me?
Plenty of fishes.
I feel personally
No,
attacked.
because this is Namibia.
What I mean by that is like I feel like when we were young and we are like experience our first love in our heads, like you be thinking you're gonna be with this person forever, and you know this is who I'm gonna marry and have a baby with. You have this whole picture and this whole dream, not knowing. Yeah, it sounds good, and it's like you kind of haven't experienced life yet to know that you have so many years in front of you and you're going to meet so many people. Like you can date, you do all these things. And I mean, shout out to all the people that have married their high school sweethearts and all of that stuff, but it doesn't always work out that way. And I think that sometimes our younger selves like are too affected by our first love. Like we will do anything for the significant other that we love. Like, you know what I'm saying? And we see it now on social media, like these young girls are flocking over these rappers and they love them so much, and these rappers got 4 or 5 baby mothers and they all in love, and y'all sister wives, and you know you a sister wife, but you so in love and you think that we're gonna be together forever and I should stick through it and hold on. Like, no. Like, know yourself. You know, continue to experiment, date around. Like, I've seen, like, I've had friends that didn't want to go to college because they didn't want to leave their significant other in whatever state that they live in. It is crazy.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, man?
No, I totally agree, because you're blindsided, and it's just you look at it as in a tunnel vision, you know, and that goes back to like always going back to that ex, you know what I mean? And we do that as, you know, the 18-year-old self. When we say 18-year-old, it's more like the adolescent years where we feel like, okay, we have history, so let's keep on trying. And you mess that up, you go and do your thing, and then you always go back to that person because, like you said, you feel like that's
it's
the
like
one.
a comfort zone.
But what Zeneba is saying is there's a lot of fishes in the sea. So to my understanding is like you trying to say your 18-year-old should have messed around at the time you were in a
I think she's
relationship.
She's just saying that.
To my understanding, I feel like she's telling 18-year-old to do stuff. If you're in a relationship, go talk to other guys, weigh your options. You know, if he dumps you, move on to the next.
What I can help you, so I can help you understand what I'm saying, right? What I'm saying is, don't think that this one person is your everything. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like,
Don't let him control
don't
you.
think that this is the person that I'm gonna have for the rest of my life. And if that person is treating you bad,
I don't think it's a
know that if that person is treating you bad, know that I can move on. Like, I can date.
There are other.
But what I'm saying is, it's not a bad thing to think, oh, this is who I want to be with. I'm in love. No, you 18. Why would you be weighing your options? You 18 and you fall in love with this guy. Just keep falling in love with him. Maybe when he messes up, then jump onto the next. You can be dealing with 2, 4 guys at the same. That's basically you being a hoe at the age of 18. And then when you're 21, then what's gonna happen? I'm in love. But if you say if the person is treating you bad, then I understand why you should, weigh your other options.
But if someone is treating you bad, know that you don't have to be stuck in this relationship. You can always move on to something else.
You have to open your mind for that. You know, you have to open your heart for that. And a lot of times we don't open our heart when we feel like we have to go back to that one person. We don't give the other person a chance. There could be a great guy for her, and she won't give him the chance because she's like, I'm gonna have to go back to this person.
Yeah, you're trying so hard to be with this person that you're being blind
you just gotta let that shit go.
Also, as an 18-year-old woman, you don't know what you want in a man. You don't even. There's women who think they like men, and they get older, and they're like, oh, I like women. So at 18, I think what she's saying, by expanding the horizon, keeping your options open, you're learning from your experiences.
Well, that's it. Let's get your first question.
Still telling me.
Let's get your first question.
So my first point is, I graduated high school early. So I was 17. I started college literally within 2 weeks. So I was still in that high school mentality.
Wait, hold on. What? Say that again?
So I graduated high school early. So I was 17 and I began college 2 weeks later. Thank you. Thank you.
That's good.
Thank you.
Intelligent African
And
women.
I was still in that high school mentality, and I was like surrounded by people older than me, and I was partying, and I'm from Queens, I went to the city, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm in the city, I got a party, penthouse, all this stuff, and I'm just like, I would tell my 18-year-old self, party less, read more.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, but
We can all relate
you
to
graduated
that.
at 17. You
Well,
went
I
to
think that's
college
high
two
school-
weeks
high
school-
after.
high
Read
school-
more.
high
How
school's
much you gonna
different.
read?
I mean, I
But
messed
y'all
up
think-
and I
but
messed
here on
up,
the East
you know.
Coast, that's a month thing. Like if you're,
Yeah.
if, as a baby, when you know, like you go to
Yeah,
first
yeah,
grade,
no,
when you're
absolutely.
5, I think when you're like born like November, December,
Yeah.
like there's a cutoff that you
Yeah.
can. A lot of kids graduate at 17.
So
but,
basically-
but starting college in 2 weeks.
So let me explain this. So basically, starting college was another level of high school, but more in a mature way. I mean, you're still dealing with all the stuff that you're going through, but like more in a mature way and more like more drugs, more people that, more sex, more like when I was in high school, I wasn't exposed to that much. I mean,
It's important not to party too much at a young age because I feel like we have so little time, and when we're young, we forget about that. And I feel like if I would have focused more on school, I would have been accomplished my dreams at such a younger age instead of wasting so much time. And one thing I learned about being 18 and partying too much is that I should have worked harder then so I could relax later.
So my question is the fact that you did party at a young age. Now you're older and you're more settled down. Where there are a lot of people that didn't party at a young age like me, and now you older and you still getting drunk every. You know what I mean? So I don't know. For me personally, I think I would have wanted to party a lot more when I was younger, so I could have got it out my system. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but there's
So
a con to that though, because when you're not as mature, there's a chance for you to get into really bad situations, especially for.
It's worse when you're an adult to get into that bad
But that's true.
situation
But
because
when
now you got money.
when you're an
and
18-year-old
access.
girl and you're not experienced with alcohol,
so
you
then
can get
different for
taken
girls and
advantage
guys.
of.
That's true.
I agree.
And the reason why I say that is because, like, when you're an 18-year-old girl, you don't have a lot of experience with alcohol. That leaves a big door open for guys to take advantage of you. We hear stories all the time of girls blacking out and waking up and they were raped, or they were.
So it's different for guys.
It's
and girls.
different.
That
I
makes
definitely
sense.
think it is different for guys and girls, and I think that also too, when you're even at 17, you're thrown into college, you can risk like alcohol poisoning, passing out. Like you don't even know how to react to alcohol like that.
Yeah, so for me, I would tell the first thing I would tell my 18-year-old self is that you are a beautiful soul worthy of love. Differentiate between love and lust, and let people love you and not lust for you.
Wow, look at you.
You had a topic in a topic.
Yeah.
That was deep.
Yeah, for me, I would say, my first boyfriend experience was when I was 14, turning 15, and he was a 21-year-old. So, now that I look back, I'm like, why the hell was a 21-year-old with a 14-year-old, But for me, being that, and then again, I was a tomboy. Like my teenage years, I was a tomboy. Like when men used to look at me, I used to be like, can't you see a man like you? Like, what's good? Like, and then, I met this guy who was so persistent, who was like, no, and then things hit it off. And he was so emotionally abusive and would tell me things that like, look at all these fine babes who want me and I'm with you and you're ugly, you're not worthy. And I stuck through it from 15 to 18 to, I really stuck in. And, it's contentious how I lost my virginity because, it's a lot of gray area there. And I think I want to say now that I'm older, he took advantage. I don't know, whatever. But, I think I realized I was lusting for him, and it was more of a lust situation and not a love situation. And he made me feel so horrible for being who I am, for being such a genuine soul, such a genuine spirit. He put his hands on me. It was just
Give
not
me this dude's number right now.
It wasn't a good situation. And that's why, I want to tell my 18-year-old self, because after that experience, I just it was a cycle of like really bad men who I was just in this situation of lust and not really understanding love and lust. And so, I would just really tell my 18-year-old self, like, just let people love you and not lust for you.
Now that I think about it,
as a 24-year-old, as more mature, I do think, yes, 100%, he did take advantage of me. He took advantage of my innocence. He took advantage of just my lack of knowing, you know, my sweetness, my kindness, and took it to another level because he was facing his own issues. You know, he came from not the best family. I would say his family was good, but not the best environment. You know, it came from quite an abusive environment. So I'm not gonna give excuses to him, but that abuse definitely was transferred to me, and I felt it.
First, I could say to that, like, wow, that was heavy, you know what I mean? And, like, salute to you, Queen, for, like, being able to sit here and just, like, tell, you know, some people that you don't even know too much, but just to, you know, say your truth right now, like, you know what I mean? Like, it takes strength for that. I salute
Strong
that.
queen.
I salute you for that. Like,
Absolutely.
real talk.
This was a good moment.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But look, on a serious note, but look, I feel, you know, like both of y'all points, it's like y'all had to grow up fast. You know what I'm saying? I had to do the same thing, so I could relate. Like, I had to hold it down, be the man of the house for my mom, didn't have a father, so, you know, didn't finish high school, had to get a GED. Like, it's, you know, I can agree to all that. You know?
What about you, Jonathan?
Let me go into my handy dandy notebook. All right. First thing I would tell my 18-year-old self is accept yourself as God made you.
That's a great one.
I don't want to get emotional, but I grew up not loving who I was. I was bullied a lot. You know, it's real unfortunate that, you know, something I had that's gold, you know, which is like my culture and, you know, my parents and my family and the support I had, I didn't accept it, and I wasn't appreciative about that because of what other kids would call me or, you know, how they would treat me. And then I would, you know, as a teenager, because what happened to me when I was younger to from someone who we felt was family, you know, I'm sure you guys can understand. I thought it was my fault.
What happened to you?
I was molested as a child.
Wow.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And it was a family friend who we considered basically a cousin.
Wow.
I was in 6th grade, you know, and went on. So my 18-year-old self, you know, I always felt like I had to prove myself because I wanted the attention. I wanted to be liked by people because, you know, I grew up being that different guy who wasn't, you know, enough to hang with the cool kids or anything like that. So, yeah, I would tell my 18-year-old self, accept yourself as God made you, because today I see myself and I just love myself. I love where I come from. I love my past, even the negative stuff that happened, because it's made me the man who I am today. You know, and so many people I see worldwide, internationally, that accept me for who I am, you know, and when I was 18, I didn't see that. So
I think it's very hard for any teenager to get over a traumatic experience, whether it happened when they were younger or in their teens, because you're a teenager. You don't know how to react. You don't know how to feel. You don't know how to get over or deal with those type of thoughts and pain. So that's why it's so important to talk to teens and see where their head is at. You know, it might be uncomfortable for the parent to have that type of conversation, but you know, teens don't have the means to just go to a therapist. They don't know what a therapist is. They don't come from a family that really supports therapy. So it's just a very tough world for a teenager who grows up not loving theirself or going through something out the norm from any other happy teen.
That is very, very commendable. You know, a lot of the times when it comes to sexual assault for men, you know, we don't really talk about it. And
not to cut you off, but this was my first time ever saying that out loud. Like,
wow. And I want to commend you, you know, for that. That takes a lot of courage, because a lot of men need to hear this. You know, a lot of men in my circle have always told me, like my nanny or like a family friend, like my first sexual experience at 8, 9, whatever age it is, was with somebody they trusted, and we never talk about that, you know. And so I commend you for sharing your story and highlighting this very important topic in our society, because not to compare you to this person, that's not my point, but you see, like R. Kelly, like he has a story of abuse, and then now look at I'm not justifying his actions, but you can see like where it came from. So you know, we need to address these really, really important issues, and I want to commend you and appreciate you for that strength, because it needed to be heard.
And you know what, Jonathan, I can really relate to you, because the high school that I went to was predominantly like Spanish, and I just wasn't like, it wasn't cool to be African. It wasn't cool to be dark skinned. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything was all about like Latin women and being lighter skinned, and even in their community, being lighter skinned was better. Like, a lot of like the darker skinned Dominican girls was struggling just like me, and I know what it feels like to feel like, where's your place? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because I had a situation where like I was bullied, but I was bullied because my parents had an accent. You know, like they'll come pick me up from school. My mother has an accent. It was like a funny thing, like, oh, African this, African that. But I still like kept my confidence like high. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna say like I was so bullied to the point where I was sheltered. I've always like held my own ground. But it really did turn into like a need for me to constantly defend myself. Like, when I was in high school, I was fighting girls left and right all the time. It is, because I felt like, why am I always having to defend myself? Why is somebody always attacking me? So I definitely understand how you feel with that.
And I would say, like, I was trying so hard not to be emotional, but like it's just so hard, because like with Jonathan, like, you're always a happy person. Like, you can never tell if he has gone through something like that, and I really, really appreciate it for sharing.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Really, really,
All right. Gerard?
Lift this up. I guess, you know, I'm gonna lift y'all up. All right, look, my first point is, I would tell my 18-year-old self to make better tattoo decisions.
Oh.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting that.
That's facts.
That's a good one.
What was your first tattoo?
Yes.
What was your first? What was your first tattoo? You got it covered?
All right, look, my first tattoo. My first tattoo was right here, and I got Heartless on my arm.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, it's this is so old. It's like, you know, it's fading, so you can actually see the Heartless still, but. I got that, you know, that was my first tattoo, you know what I mean? I was 15.
Wow.
So, you know what I mean? I was feeling this girl I was with, you know. She, you know, she broke the boy's heart, you know what I mean?
Why do you regret the tattoo?
You know, huh?
Why do you regret it?
I mean, because it just, I got it off impulse, you know what I mean? And, you know, I think, like,
rebelling.
At that time, there was there was an innocence in me that, like, you know, when you meet like kids that are like, you know, adolescents, teens, it's like that fragile of innocence they still have before. It's like the sexual and the innuendos and the social media, like, you know, they're still, you know, like the eyes are wide a little bit. I was still there. When she did that, you know what I mean, it kind of took all of that from me, so I got a tattoo. And from that point on, I started my little bad tirade and all of that. So, I mean, you know, it was a decision for me that I think had I not went through that, I probably wouldn't have this many tattoos now, but it just became a cycle, you know what I mean? And after that, like, I used to treat bad experiences as, I'm gonna get another tattoo.
So do you feel like it's addictive? Because I hear people
say
that
It is, I'll say it is. Now I'm at a point where I just love the art, but I was at a point earlier, like 15, 16, 17, 18, where I was just getting tattoos because I was hurt or I was just going through something.
Do you not take that as a form of therapy, though?
Yeah, it was. I had
but
to
it's
really.
painful, though.
I spoke to someone.
I mean, but it's like basically putting your emotions on your sleeves, you know, type of
I spoke
thing.
to someone. I went in therapy and actually spoke to someone about this, and they said, well, you know, while I don't agree with tattoos, they just said basically, listen, you know, you have to have an outlet for something.
Exactly.
Whether it be music or you know, dancing or you know, like dancing or anything, you know, that you find, you know, pleasurable to you, and that's not toxic for you, you know. You know, so I had to really, you know, put that in perspective, and you know, I'm not, you know, gonna be like, you know. At the time, I mean, I never had many outlets coming up. It was always just a typical, basketball or, rap. And, I never really had something that I was passionate about. And so by circumstance, tattoos took that void. And it wasn't a good circumstance because it was toxic at the time. But, it did create an outlet for me, in my later years, and, I enjoy the art of it.
Do you regret any of them?
Do I regret? Yeah, I definitely do. My first one I regret.
But you got it covered, right?
I got it covered. I regret getting like skulls on me.
Yeah, that equals to death in a lot of cultures.
Yeah.
Has your tattoos affected like anything that you've been trying to do lately?
To be honest with you, the corporate world, it kind of. I was never big on being corporate, but when I had my run and trying to like be, in the office and stuff like that and go to school and, trying to be a working professional, in my heart I knew it wasn't for me, but people, looked down on me. I couldn't wear like a short sleeve, people in the workroom. I had to be in a sweater middle of June and, 98 degrees because, just because.
We sweat.
You know what I'm saying? Just because, I got stuff passed on.
Yeah.
And also, it's hurt me with, I tried to have my fare in doing law enforcement. Yeah. They said, listen, I know you have a lot of tattoos.
You got to write down all your tattoos before you go in.
You have to write down every single tattoo, what it means, what age you got. Like, they want to know everything. And some of them say, hey, you have to get it removed. Because we don't.
Because of gang-related tattoos.
Yeah. So
are they going to pay for it?
You can't work in law enforcement and have gang-related tattoos.
No.
They don't pay for it. So it's like they almost treat you like a criminal. You got to take your shirt off. You got to show everything. You have to, you know what I'm saying? So it's.
But you know what's so funny? Tattoos actually originated in prison.
Right.
So it was like a way to distinguish, like, okay, this is my crew.
It originated in prison.
Yeah, it did.
But back in the day, African tattoos.
My grandmother had tattoos all on her neck, but it wasn't like gangster tattoos. They were tribal tattoos that went on, and then the cross. I thought it was slavery.
Slaves used to put them to mark them.
Yeah, the mark them.
The tattoo. I get what you're trying to say. Like basically, what we see tattoos as today. You know what I mean? The culture of it, hip hop and everything, it started like basically it came popular from prison and gang, stuff. It is. You know what I mean? Before, culturally it meant something far greater, and it was definitely more of a spiritual thing within people.
But it was a way to like separate people and mark people. Even the Jewish, they would give them tattoo numbers.
It's even on the Bible too, where they mark people.
And they'll brand people and everything. So
listen, for anyone out there, you know what I mean, hearing my story, listen, think long and hard, about your tattoos.
That's good. So for me,
He said that's good.
All right. So for me, I said,
naked skin.
I said, be quick to forgive but never forget.
Oh,
there's
I
been
like that.
so many times, like everybody know, like if you know me, I'm a very nice person. I would say I'm emotional, but like
Instigator.
no, I'm what? No. Okay, shut up. So so quick to forgive but never forget, because there's been so many times where like my own friends, like people I bring to my home, would you know how you bring somebody to your house and then the person will make you look bad in front of your parents?
Yes.
That thing. Your mom says, oh, don't you see what your friend is doing?
Yeah.
Wow.
And this is someone like, who has done me so many bad things. But like, I just look at it, I'm like, yo, there's been instances where the person has stole my stuff. But then to a point where you come to my home and then spend the night and then make me feel like I'm not doing anything. And my mom will be like, oh, look at your friend. He wakes up so early to brush his teeth. Like,
Parents love doing that. They love comparing. They love comparing.
If you're gonna be my friend, like, don't do that in front of my mom. Like,
so
you're making me.
So you want right?
Like, the same things that they do that will make you listen. Like, I don't think they do that in their home.
Right.
I've been to their home before.
And they don't do that.
They will work like I'm Muslim, right? And then you're supposed to do the Fajr, the early morning prayers, Like everybody, like I don't sleep early. I sleep like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. So for me to wake up like at 5 a.m. again to pray is like a big deal. And my friend would just like wake up, put in the mic. And my mom was like, see what your friend is doing.
Why don't you be like him?
I don't have to be
No,
like
I'm
him.
saying that's probably what she said. Why don't you be like him?
But that's what I'm saying. Like if you're my friend, you shouldn't be doing that. You
Don't be a goody two-shoes.
You're making me look bad.
Look bad. That's why it look better.
So this is an example. One friend. I'm just using him. I know he knows himself. So he comes to my house and do all that. But the twist, not knowing anytime he comes to my house, he steals my stuff. So I didn't know until I went to his home the other time, and then I didn't tell him I was coming. I saw him in my clothes, like from head to toe. Like he had my stuff. Like, ooh. But you see, my mom doesn't know the part that he steals. Like I don't steal.
He's still your friend? He's still
No, he's not my friend anymore. But I'm just saying for now. But before, I gave him a pass. And there's been a lot of instances where my friends like do me dirty, and I'll just be like, dumb, but they would do it again. So at this point, I'm like, you know what? I'm 23. I'm not gonna let that happen anymore. Like there's no. They say give second chances, but trust me, like sometimes it's not worth it. Like if the person does you dirty or the person do you dirty, just let it be.
Let's walk cleverly on the beat.